There's a question I get all the time: how do smart, grounded, purpose-driven people deal with toxic people? And I always say the same thing: it's not about being smarter than them. It's about being wiser than the situation. Because here's the truth: toxic people don't destroy strong individuals. They destroy individuals who try to fight toxicity with the wrong tools. Smart people, truly smart people, understand something fundamental. You don't win wars with fire by adding more fire. You win by removing the oxygen, and that requires discipline, that requires clarity, that requires courage. Most people misunderstand what strength looks like. They think strength is loud, quick, forceful. They think the smartest person in the room is the one who fires back instantly, the one who puts someone in their place. But smart people, truly smart people, know that reacting is not strength. It's surrender. When you react immediately to a toxic person, you hand them the steering wheel of your emotions. You let them set the tempo, the tone, and the rules of the interaction. And the moment you do that, you're already playing their game. Smart people understand this deeply. A reaction is instinct, but a response is intention. Toxic people thrive on emotional chaos. They want you to step into the trap of instant defensiveness. They want to pull you into an argument, a spiral, a competition. For them, conflict is fuel. It's how they maintain control, how they validate their world view, how they convince themselves that the world is just as chaotic as they feel inside. But reacting gives them exactly what they're looking for. It confirms their belief that pushing your buttons works. And once they know it works, they'll never stop pushing. Smart people see this dynamic clearly. They don't jump at the bait. They don't explode, shut down, lash out, or rush to defend themselves. Instead, they create space, a psychological pause. In that pause, they make a choice. Do I want to give this person power? Do I want them to shape how I feel right now? Do I want them to decide what version of myself I bring forward? That pause is everything, because in that space, clarity lives. In that space, maturity lives. In that space, emotional intelligence lives. A reaction collapses the space between stimulus and action. A response expands it, and that expansion is where wisdom flourishes. Smart people respond from their values, not their triggers. They choose their tone, they choose their timing, they choose the emotional energy they bring into the moment. And when you choose, you're not playing their game anymore. You're playing your game. This isn't about being passive. It's not about being silent or letting people walk all over you. In fact, responding with intention is often the more courageous path, because it demands self-control in moments when anger feels justified. Anyone can explode, anyone can snap back, anyone can mirror negativity, but it takes strength, real strength, to hold your ground without letting someone drag you into emotional quicksand. Consider how a seasoned leader behaves under pressure. When someone challenges them, criticizes them unfairly, or tries to provoke them, they don't fire back with the same energy. They listen, they process, they ask questions, they take their time, and what happens? The room calms down. The emotional temperature drops. The toxic person loses leverage because their entire strategy depends on your reaction. Smart people also understand that the goal is not to win an argument with a toxic person. You don't win by proving them wrong. You don't win by outshouting them. You win by not stepping into the arena they're trying to pull you into. So, what does responding look like? It looks like pausing before you speak. It looks like taking a breath instead of taking the bait. It looks like saying, "I'll get back to you on this," rather than engaging in conflict you didn't choose. It looks like keeping your tone even when theirs escalates. It looks like being curious instead of reactive. Help me understand what you mean by that. It looks like remembering that their behavior is a reflection of their internal world, not yours. And most importantly, responding means you're protecting your own peace. It means you're choosing who you become in the moment instead of letting someone else choose for you. There's a quiet power in responding that toxic people cannot stand. They can't control it. They can't manipulate it. They can't break it down, because the moment you stop reacting, the dynamic shifts. they lose their influence. They lose their ability to get inside your emotional space. They lose the satisfaction they were seeking. Smart people know this. They know that emotional control is a superpower. They know that patience is not weakness, it's strategy. They know that the calmest person in the room is often the strongest, and that's why they don't react. They respond. They choose intention over impulse. They choose strength over chaos. They choose themselves. Because in the end, how you respond to toxicity says less about the toxic person and everything about the person you are becoming. Most people think boundaries are about telling others what they can or cannot do, but smart people know that boundaries are really about telling yourself what you will and will not allow. They are not attempts to control someone else's behavior because you can't. They are commitments to protect your own well-being, your own energy, your own emotional clarity. Toxic people struggle deeply with boundaries, not because the boundary itself is unreasonable, but because it disrupts their ability to blur lines, to manipulate, to walk in and out of your emotional space whenever it benefits them. Boundaries force accountability, and accountability is something toxic people resist at all costs. Smart people, though, understand this dynamic. They don't set boundaries as threats, they set them as standards for themselves. A boundary is not a punishment, it's a reflection of self-respect. It's a quiet, firm line that says, I value my peace, and I will not trade it for someone else's chaos. Here's what most people get wrong. They believe boundaries must be loud to be effective. They think they need to justify them, argue about them, or convince the other person to accept them. But smart people don't operate this way. They understand that boundaries become weaker every time you over-explain or apologize for them. So they keep them simple, clear, consistent. Where toxic people push, smart people hold, not aggressively, not emotionally, just steadily. That steadiness is the power. A toxic person may get louder when you draw a boundary. They may guilt you, criticize you, or act hurt. They may accuse you of being cold, selfish, or overreacting. But this is not a sign that your boundary is wrong. This is a sign that your boundary is working. It's disrupting a dynamic that previously benefited them. Smart people expect this resistance, and they don't take it personally. They don't get pulled into the emotional traps that follow. They don't collapse their boundary the moment someone shows discomfort. Instead, they stay anchored. They stay grounded. They stay aligned with what they know is right for them. And they do this without hostility. A boundary delivered with calm confidence is far more powerful than a boundary delivered with anger. Anger invites conflict. Calmness makes the line unmistakably clear. Smart people know that boundaries are not walls. Walls block everyone out. Boundaries simply filter who comes in. It's not about isolation. It's about intentional connection. It's about choosing relationships that are mutual, respectful, and healthy, rather than reactive and draining. And something interesting happens when smart people enforce boundaries consistently. They begin to change their own internal narrative. They stop asking, why do they keep hurting me? And begin asking, why do I keep allowing access to people who don't value my well-being? That shift is transformative. Boundaries teach you more about yourself than about the people you set them against. You learn what behavior you've been tolerating for the sake of peace. You learn what patterns you've been excusing out of fear or guilt. And you learn that protecting your energy is not selfish, it is responsible. Once smart people experience this internal clarity, they stop apologizing for their boundaries altogether. They stop seeking approval. They stop shrinking themselves to keep the peace. They stop saying yes when their whole body is saying no. A healthy boundary is not, I need you to change. A healthy boundary is, I will change how I interact when you behave this way. One seeks to control the other person. The other seeks to control yourself. Only one of those is truly possible. Toxic people eventually realize something they don't like. Their behaviors no longer get the same reaction. They no longer get to access your time on demand. They no longer get to drain your emotional energy. They no longer get to walk into your life like it's a revolving door. Your boundary removes their power. And in that moment, the dynamic shifts. Smart people know that boundaries are not there to punish others. They're there to protect the version of you that you're building, the version of you that deserves respect, calm, and safety, the version of you that refuses to live life dictated by someone else's instability. Boundaries are an act of leadership, leadership over your time, leadership over your emotional landscape, leadership over your life. And when you hold the line, even when it's uncomfortable, even when someone pushes back, you send a clear message: my peace is not negotiable. My energy is not disposable. My worth is not up for debate. Smart people don't just set boundaries. They honor them, they live them, they protect them, because they know that without boundaries, you can't have healthy relationships. And without healthy relationships, you can't have a healthy life. One of the greatest traps people fall into when dealing with toxicity is believing that the toxic behavior has something to do with them. When someone criticizes us, belittles us, ignores us, or lashes out, our instinct is to internalize it. We ask ourselves, what did I do wrong? Why are they treating me this way? What's wrong with me? And this is exactly where our confidence begins to erode. Because the moment you accept their behavior as a reflection of your worth, you've given them access to the most vulnerable parts of your identity. Smart people understand something essential. Toxic behavior is a mirror, but it does not reflect you. It reflects the person holding it. When someone attacks you, when someone tries to diminish your confidence or question your value, they're revealing their own internal world. Their fear, their insecurity, their frustration, their unmet needs, their lack of emotional stability. The words they throw toward you are shaped by the chaos they carry within themselves. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it explains it. And understanding the source of toxic behavior makes it so much easier not to absorb it. Smart people don't personalize toxicity. They observe it, they study it. They understand that every human being projects what they haven't resolved. Someone who is filled with shame often shames others. Someone who is deeply insecure criticizes others. Someone who feels powerless often tries to control or manipulate the people around them. And someone who doesn't know how to regulate their emotions creates emotional storms wherever they go. When you internalize this behavior, you take ownership of wounds that are not yours to carry. Smart people refuse to do that. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What is happening inside this person that makes them behave this way?" That question creates emotional distance. It shifts you from being a target to being an observer, and that shift protects you. You stop seeing their attack as personal. You start seeing it as patterned. You stop responding with guilt. You start responding with clarity. You stop thinking you caused it. You realize you were simply nearby. Internalizing toxic behavior makes you feel responsible for someone else's emotional dysfunction. It keeps you stuck in cycles of self-blame, trying to change yourself to fix a situation that was never yours to fix in the first place. Smart people don't make that mistake. They understand that toxicity is internal turbulence trying to escape. It's like smoke from a fire. They don't inhale it. They step back and identify the source. They don't stand there coughing and wondering what's wrong with their lungs. They look at the fire and say, "That has nothing to do with me." This kind of emotional detachment is not coldness. It's clarity. It doesn't mean you don't care about people. It means you care enough about your own well-being not to let someone else's chaos rewrite your identity. It means you're capable of empathy without self-sacrifice. It means you can understand someone's pain without making it your responsibility to heal it. Smart people also understand that internalizing toxic behavior is dangerous because it changes how you show up in the world. When you take someone's cruelty personally, you shrink, you become quieter, you lower your expectations. You begin to walk on emotional eggshells. You start acting like someone who deserves less than what you actually do. Toxic people benefit from this. Your shrinking gives them more room to expand. Your silence gives them more power to speak. Your self-doubt gives them more space to control. By refusing to internalize toxic behavior, smart people stop that dynamic immediately. They hold onto their self-worth. They stay grounded in who they are. They don't let external negativity shape their internal narrative. They recognize the difference between feedback and projection. Feedback is grounded, specific, and constructive, even when it's tough. Projection is chaotic, emotional, and harmful. Smart people can tell the difference, and they only internalize feedback that is rooted in truth, not insecurity. This is what separates emotional intelligence from emotional vulnerability. And here's something important. Smart people know that not internalizing toxicity doesn't mean tolerating it. It simply means you separate the meaning from the source. You decide how much weight their words deserve. You choose whether to engage, to distance yourself, or to walk away completely. You reclaim your emotional space. Toxic people lose their power the moment you realize that their behavior is not about you. They can throw words, blame, accusations, but they can't touch your identity unless you let them. And smart people don't. They understand that you can't control the way people treat you, but you can absolutely control the meaning you attach to it. That choice, the choice not to internalize, creates freedom. It creates emotional resilience. It creates peace. And it protects the most important relationship you have, the relationship with yourself. One of the most powerful realizations smart people come to is that environment is not neutral. The people you surround yourself with, the energy you allow close to you, the habits you witness daily, these things shape you. They influence your mood, your behavior, your confidence, and your thinking far more than most people want to admit. We like to believe we are independent, self-directed, immune to the influence of others, but human beings are social creatures. We absorb what surrounds us. Toxic environments drain us not because we are weak, but because we are wired to respond to the emotional atmosphere we're in. If you walk into a room full of tension, your body feels it. If you work in a place where people are always stressed or negative, you carry that stress home. If you stay in a relationship where criticism is normal and appreciation is rare, you begin to question your own value. It's not personal, it's biology. We mirror what we see, we adapt to what surrounds us. Smart people understand this. They know that their environment plays a crucial role in who they become. So they don't stay in toxic spaces longer than necessary. They don't try to save every relationship, fix every workplace, or absorb every person's dysfunction. They don't make their lives harder out of loyalty to people or places that diminish them. Smart people know when to walk away, not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. The mistake most people make is believing that staying longer somehow proves strength or resilience. But staying in a toxic environment doesn't prove strength. It drains it. It wears down your confidence, your clarity, your sense of self. It makes you operate in survival mode instead of growth mode, and you can't build a fulfilling life when you're stuck in survival mode. Leaving a toxic environment doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing growth over suffering. It means you're choosing your future over your fear of change. It means you're choosing a life that aligns with your values, not one that forces you to compromise them. Smart people don't wait until they're emotionally exhausted to make that decision. They recognize the signs early when the environment starts to feel heavy, when the energy becomes draining, when the negativity becomes predictable. They understand that the longer you stay in a toxic place, the harder it becomes to leave, because toxicity creates comfort zones, and comfort zones are traps dressed as safety. A toxic environment teaches you to normalize things that should never feel normal. It teaches you to lower your standards, to silence your instincts, to tolerate disrespect, to question your worth. And that's why smart people choose their environment intentionally. They choose rooms where they feel energized, not depleted. They choose relationships that are balanced, not one-sided. They choose friends who uplift them, not those who compete with them. They choose workplaces where collaboration replaces competition. And when they find themselves in environments that contradict these values, they don't argue with reality. They don't try to convince themselves that it's not that bad. They don't make excuses for the behavior of others. They see the environment for what it is, and they act. Acting doesn't always mean leaving immediately. Sometimes it means creating emotional distance before physical distance. Sometimes it means setting boundaries, reducing access, or limiting your emotional investment. Sometimes it means preparing for a transition step by step, but the intention is the same. Protect your peace, guard your energy, and choose spaces that allow you to grow. What makes this approach so powerful is that it shifts responsibility from the environment to the individual. Instead of thinking, "I hope this place gets better," smart people think, "What environment do I need to be in to become my best self?" That shift changes everything. And here's something important. Choosing your environment is not selfish, it's responsible. Because when you stay in toxic spaces for too long, you don't just hurt yourself. You bring that exhaustion into other areas of your life. You carry it into your relationships, your work, your dreams, your future. Toxicity spills. It does not stay contained. Smart people refuse to let toxicity dictate their future. They know that the right environment brings out their strengths, their creativity, their passion. It allows them to feel safe, supported, and capable. And in that kind of environment, people thrive not because they try harder, but because they are no longer fighting against emotional gravity. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to choose environments that honor who you are and who you're becoming. Smart people choose that courage every time. Toxic people want something from you that most people don't realize. They want your attention. They want your emotional energy. They want to pull you into their world of chaos because chaos is where they feel most comfortable. It's familiar to them. It's where they thrive. And the moment you give your energy to their drama, even for a second, they've already won. They've taken you out of your purpose and pulled you into their patterns. Smart people understand this dynamic clearly. They know that every minute spent in unnecessary drama is a minute stolen from growth. It's a minute taken from progress, from creativity, from meaningful relationships, from their own potential. It's not just frustration, it's lost opportunity. One of the most important lessons smart people learn is this: you cannot build a meaningful life if you are constantly distracted by meaningless conflict. Drama is seductive. It makes you feel justified, emotional, reactive. It pulls you in by triggering your sense of fairness, your desire to defend yourself, your instinct to argue back. You feel like you need to respond, like you need to correct the narrative, like you need to make them see the truth. But toxic people don't want truth. They want control. They want attention. They want a reaction. Smart people stop giving it to them. They choose growth over drama, not because they are indifferent, but because they understand that their energy is finite. You only get so much emotional fuel in a day, and smart people invest that fuel where it creates momentum, not where it gets burned up for nothing. Think about anyone who has built something meaningful, a career, a relationship, a vision, the company. They didn't get there by allowing themselves to be emotionally hijacked by negativity. They got there by protecting their focus, by filtering out distractions, by refusing to engage in battles that lead nowhere. Drama is a circular path. Growth is a forward path. Smart people choose forward. This doesn't mean smart people avoid conflict. Conflict and drama are not the same. Conflict can be healthy. It can lead to clarity, understanding, solutions, and stronger relationships. Drama leads to none of that. Drama is conflict without purpose. It's noise without meaning. It's emotion without resolution. Smart people know the difference. When they sense drama, they disengage. When they sense meaningful conflict, they engage with curiosity, not defensiveness. They ask questions, they seek clarity, but they never let the conversation become emotional quicksand. Choosing growth means choosing where your attention goes. Toxic people try to steal that attention because attention is power. The moment they pull you into their emotional storm, they control the weather. Smart people don't step into storms they don't need to be in. They stand at a distance, grounded, focused, anchored. Choosing growth also means choosing long-term thinking over short-term emotional satisfaction. You might feel the urge to fire back when someone insults you. You might feel the urge to defend yourself when they twist a story. You might feel the urge to correct someone when they spread negativity. But smart people ask themselves one question before responding. Does this move me closer to the person I'm becoming? That question filters out everything. Drama may feel good in the moment, but it does nothing for your future. Growth doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it builds your future. Smart people spend their time on activities that elevate them, learning, connecting, building, improving, reflecting. These activities compound, they create momentum, they create stability. Drama does the opposite. It drains emotional reserves. It creates anxiety. It disrupts focus. It pulls you away from your goals. You can't grow while putting out emotional fires all day. Smart people know that their energy is one of their most valuable assets, so they invest it intentionally. They surround themselves with people who bring them forward, not those who pull them sideways. They fill their environment with inspiration, not instability. They seek conversations that add value, not those that fuel gossip or conflict. And when a toxic person tries to pull them into drama, they don't get angry, they get uninterested. The opposite of engagement is not confrontation, it's indifference. When drama no longer gets a reaction from you, it loses its power. Smart people protect their peace because they know that peace is the foundation of growth. You can only make progress when your mind is steady, your emotions are grounded, and your energy is focused. Toxic people want to distract you. Smart people want to develop themselves. Toxic people want you to react. Smart people choose to rise. Toxic people want chaos. Smart people choose purpose. And choosing purpose means walking away from anything that doesn't help you become the person you are meant to be. Most people believe they have only two choices when dealing with toxic behavior: tolerate it silently or fight it aggressively. But smart people know there is a third option, one that requires far more strength, far more discipline, far more character. They choose to lead with grace without allowing themselves to become a doormat. They refuse to mirror the negativity in front of them. They refuse to let someone else's behavior dictate their own. They stay true to who they are, even when the environment around them pulls them toward a version of themselves they don't want to be. Grace is not weakness. People misunderstand that. They think grace means letting things slide, or pretending not to notice harmful behavior, or accepting disrespect as if kindness requires self-sacrifice. But grace, in its true form, is strength with gentleness. It is clarity without cruelty. It is firmness delivered with calm. Smart people know this. They understand that responding harshly to toxic behavior doesn't create respect. It creates more toxicity. And responding passively doesn't create peace. It invites more disrespect. Smart people walk the narrow line in between. They keep their dignity without taking someone else's away. They uphold their standards without raising their voice. They maintain compassion without abandoning accountability. When a toxic person raises their volume, a smart person lowers theirs. Not out of fear, but out of choice, because they know emotional escalation never leads to emotional resolution. When a toxic person tries to provoke, smart people refuse to be provoked. When someone disrespects them, they respond with clarity, not retaliation. They don't use anger as a weapon, because they know anger only multiplies the very thing they're trying to avoid. There is a quiet power in staying calm. It disarms people. It confuses toxic personalities who expect a fight. It sets a tone for the conversation that says, "I will not participate in emotional chaos." And once you set the tone, something interesting happens. Your presence begins to lead the interaction instead of reacting to it. Grace is leadership. Smart people understand that leadership is not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. And controlling yourself in the face of disrespect requires courage, immense self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. Anyone can explode. Anyone can argue. Anyone can become defensive. That's easy. What's hard is holding your ground without letting someone pull you down to their level. When someone is behaving in a toxic way, smart people look beneath the surface. They see pain. They see insecurity. They see fear. They see unresolved hurt. Not because they feel superior, but because understanding someone's internal struggle makes it easier not to absorb their external behavior. It allows you to stay human in the presence of someone who has forgotten how to be. But here is the crucial part. Grace without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Smart people never confuse kindness with tolerance. They never confuse compassion with permissiveness. They never confuse understanding with acceptance. If someone continues to harm, manipulate, or disrespect, smart people don't simply forgive and forget. They forgive and distance. They understand that grace is not a strategy to change the other person. It's a strategy to protect your own integrity. And protecting your integrity sometimes requires walking away. Walking away is not unkind. Walking away is not harsh. Walking away is not giving up on someone. Walking away is recognizing that their behavior is interfering with your ability to remain the best version of yourself. And if you lose yourself while trying to deal with someone else's dysfunction, no amount of grace will save the relationship. Smart people don't let toxic environments change who they are. They don't let cruelty harden them. They don't let negativity turn them bitter. They don't let manipulation make them cynical. They protect their empathy, their kindness, their openness, because these are strengths worth guarding. Leading with grace does not mean staying silent. Smart people speak up when needed, but with clarity, not aggression. They say things like, "I won't engage with you when you speak to me this way. I respect you, but I also need respect in return. I hear your frustration, but I won't accept being spoken to like that. We can continue this conversation when we're both calmer." These statements aren't confrontational. They're grounded. They don't fuel the fire. They remove the oxygen. And that is the essence of grace. It is the ability to remain rooted in your values while navigating someone else's instability. It is the refusal to become toxic just because someone else is. It is the commitment to choose strength over control, clarity over chaos, and dignity over dominance. Smart people lead with grace because they understand one simple truth. You don't rise by pushing others down. You rise by refusing to sink to their level. Smart people don't treat toxic people with aggression or revenge or guilt. They treat them with clarity, distance, and self-respect. Because at the end of the day, your life is too valuable, your energy is too precious, your peace is too important to be placed in the hands of someone who cannot handle their own. You cannot change toxic people. You cannot save them. You can only choose how much influence they are allowed to have in your life. And that choice is the ultimate form of intelligence.